Should our viewers like, comment, and subscribe?
Today's episode, Zach and I are going to take different brands and put them in a battle together and see which one we think should come out on top. So let's go. Start with number one.
All right, guys. Would you rather have A, Breguet, or B, Vacheron Constantin? Ooh, nice. Why?
So it's nothing against VC. I really love VC, if I'm being honest with you. But I think that I would pick Breguet because purely of the history of it being the oldest. And there are just certain little things about Breguet that I really like cosmetically that I think, in my opinion, beats out everybody else. And it's the hands, it's the dial, it's the history, it's those things that it's not saying it's better than VC. I don't think it'd be a hard argument saying one of these is really, really better than the other. But in my opinion, from a pure cosmetic standpoint, I think I would go with Breguet.
And I don't think you go wrong either way. We just picked two, top of the line brands. However, I just honestly, I love the Breguet tradition. I think it's a wonderful watch. But at the end of the day, when I just think through the catalogs, I think I connect better with Vacheron Constantin. I think, between the blue dial overseas, take your pick, whether it's a dual time or the chrono or just the simple three-hander, that dial is the most gorgeous blue dial I've ever laid hands or eyes on. And you've also got pieces like the Harmony, which maybe didn't sell great in the day, but it's just a really cool cushion-cased watch that is definitely on my bucket list of watches to own. So I think that you're getting wonderful watchmaking. It's part of the Holy Trinity, and it's not made as many missteps as maybe Breguet has in recent years.
Yep.
All right, guys. Next up, would you rather have A, Citizen, or B, Tissot?
B.
Yeah.
All right, we agree.
For sure.
Yeah, it's not against. Once again, I think a lot of these, it's not going to be that we dislike the other one. That's not it. I mean, I like Citizen as much as the next guy. They have a great catalog and on and on. But I own a Tissot, and they're just a really good bang for the buck. If you've, actually my wife and I both own one. But if you've only got $400 or $500 to put into a watch, and you want something that is going to fit really, really well on your wrist and be comfortable, but also be eye-catching from 30, 40 feet away, in my opinion, Tissot is where you land. I mean, it's really got, at least my experience with them, it's really got a really good look for the money. It looks like a much more expensive watch than what it actually is. So that's my opinion. What about you?
I'd challenge and say you got to go up to like 800 these days. Inflation, man. But yes, I think they make a wonderful watch for the product. And while Citizen, they're a powerhouse for sure. And they have a lot of cool things going for them. I think that, my heart goes with Tissot. Pieces like their 1938 Heritage chronometer for, roughly $1,000 for a Swiss-made chronometer with a sapphire crystal. You've got a lot of value there. And then the PRX is just, the biggest thing. Exactly. It is an icon. So, I would say Tissot has a little bit of an edge there, but Citizen is obviously great value for money as well.
Nice.
I like the PRX so much I bought it twice.
Yeah.
Dude, let's keep it moving. Let's go. Would you rather have A, Seiko, or B, Hamilton?
No, I'm just kidding. I want to say B. That may be the closest one we get to today, if I'm being honest. Yeah, I would say so. And I would say that I have both watches. I have multiples of both, but I really, really like Hamilton. And I'm sure part of it is it started out as an American brand, and it's got that heritage. But it's also the very first mechanical watch I bought my youngest son. Actually, it's the first mechanical watch I bought my oldest son, if I'm being honest with you. So we love Hamilton in the same day. Sure did. Yeah. About this time last year for Christmas, actually. But to me, I just think that once again, it's kind of like we were talking earlier, but it's their catalog. Like, they just have a vast amount of good watches. It's not just a matter of having a vast amount of watches, right? There's a lot of companies that have a vast amount of watches, but they all may be junk. But I think with Hamilton, when you go to a store and you go to the display case with Hamilton there is tons of good watches in that price range. And so for me, I own several Hamiltons, and I have no doubt I'll own several more, if I'm being honest. What do you think?
I agree. I mean, again, going back Seiko, there's a ton of great stuff for sure. But at the end of the day, I'm that European watch snob, right? Like I just, there's something to be said for something that's made in Switzerland and, you know, sapphire crystal all throughout the catalog, as opposed to, you know, it not being the same. But I've also got some sentimentality associated with it. The first new Swiss watch that I ever bought was a Hamilton khaki field officer day date from Reed's back in 2013. And that was where my relationship started with Reed's, and, you know, eventually started working for him. And now I have a career in this space, and partially because of that watch, right? So I think they offer just a ton of value for money. Hamilton's, you know, essentially the watch that built my career.
Awesome, man. So we're going to kind of take it to a lower tier, more entry level here. Would you rather have A, Casio, or B, Swatch? You have to pick one, bud.
See who the snob is, huh? You know, it's funny. I like, once again, I like them both. However, hands down, Casio just has a lot of history with myself. I've owned scores and scores and scores of them, still own a lot of them. I just think that it's just really, really hard to beat the ruggedness and just the everyday use. And back when I was working in more of a manufacturing type setting, you know, you didn't worry did you hit your watch on something. You just, you know, you could just use it as, it was the epitome of a tool watch, right? And back when I would you know, used to go out in the woods a lot, hiking and stuff like that, it was what I wanted on my wrist, because if I fell in the mud or I fell into whatever I'm doing, I wasn't petrified that I was tearing something up. It just, I knew it would take a lick and keep on going. So obviously, you know, both these are quartz watches, which is why you are so in love with them, because I know how much of a quartz fan you are. But if you had to pick between the two.
Well, actually, you know, my heart kind of said Swatch, but I went with Casio because they both make mechanical watches. Casio just launched their new mechanical watch, and it's serviceable.
Yeah.
Honestly, the Blancpain collaboration, I really, really like, and I'm not frugal when it comes to watches, let's be honest, but I've been frugal with picking one of those up, probably because I can't service it. But so I went with the Casio because it's a serviceable movement. You know, I can't speak for hiking in the woods or the ruggedness and enjoying my battery-operated watches, Rob, sorry. But at the end of the day, the one's got a serviceable mechanical movement, the other one does not. And I don't like the idea of, you know, disposable luxury.
I get it.
I can see that point. We'll go back to something that I think you really do like, Zach.
Okay.
A, Cartier, or B, Grand Seiko.
Boy, that's tough.
All right, A, yeah.
Did we agree on that one?
We agreed.
Yeah, agreed.
Ah, okay. So, you know, I obviously it's a repeat story, but history, right? And so let me speak to Grand Seiko first. Absolutely beautiful watch. Amazing the technology that those guys put into it. I mean, there's nothing short of just purely grind that got them where they are, right? And they were smart enough, of course, to patent it and everything else. I mean, their movements are just spectacular. It's really cool. They're known for the finishing. They're known for a lot of things. But when I look at it, Cartier first wristwatch, the history beyond question, beyond doubt. And if you're looking at it from a company standpoint, you know, they do have their whole other line of jewelry or whatever. Or, they've done a lot of stuff, okay? Where when I look at both the companies, it's, and it's not right, wrong, or indifferent, but Grand Seiko makes watches, right? I think if I was over it, I would not have named it Grand Seiko. And they're never going to change that, but I think that did not play to their benefit. And I realize that Seiko has this massive name, and I don't want to come across that I'm anti-Seiko. I love Seiko, and I really like Grand Seiko. But I think if they'd have picked a different name, if you think Tudor and Rolex being completely different names, I think it would have helped them out some. But I do look at Grand Seiko as being a little bit of a one-trick pony. Ironically, some of their lesser-known watches are some of my favorites, but I do think that overall, Grand Seiko is known just for kind of one type.
Now, Rob, I'm going to have to stop you there.
Okay.
Seiko and Grand Seiko, they are not a one-trick pony. They are Epson. They make printers. So they are more diversified, let me tell you.
You can't wear a printer on your
I
wrist.
wasn't thinking about Xerox jumping in the battle on this one, okay? But I will say that Cartier, to me, just is the watch I think everybody knows. I mean, they're in second place in Swiss watches for a reason. It wasn't by mistake. And, it's one of to me, they're the epitome of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And the watches that they make today that look so much like they made 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 years ago, well, why? Because it still works. It still works. And I know other YouTubers have just done a deep dive on Cartier and really talked about how, guys that rotate out of watches, blah, 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 their Cartiers stay in that rotation and it doesn't lose its spot and it never is in fear of getting sold. And yeah, they're scratch magnets, blah, 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 but they're your scratches. I've spoken to that a lot. So to me, that's my Cartier. Now, about your printers, what were you saying?
No. So just to kind of reiterate what Rob said, I mean, Grand Seiko, there's nothing to sneeze at. They do amazing dials. I would say that all day long, a Grand Seiko dial is going to be superior to what you're getting with the Cartier dial. However, I would say that for some reason, Cartier just has this romance for me that I don't get from Grand Seiko. And not for lack of trying from Grand Seiko. I mean, half their dials have nicknames, and those nicknames talk about, whether it's the cliffs of a certain mountain range or a certain lake or the ocean or whatnot. It just, I don't know. I can't really put quantify it maybe, but just there's something romantic about a Cartier watch. And when you're going to spend money on a luxury timepiece, you want those butterflies, right? You want to put something on that makes you a little bit giddy. And for me personally, I get more giddy over the idea of putting a Cartier on my wrist.
All right. Don't murder me if I get these wrong. I might butcher the names, but would you rather have A, Lange, or B, Audemars Piguet? Oh, all right.
Yeah, so A for me. It looks
You got to
like
arm
B for
wrestle
Rob.
over it. Yeah.
Okay, I lied earlier. I didn't mean to. This was the hardest. If I could get two Grail watches, they both fall one in each of these. Okay, so Lange dress watch to me cannot be beat. Maybe FB Journe. Okay, but literally either or of those are my absolute dream dress watch. I'm gonna go with AP because their catalog speaks to me in watches that I wear day to day, right? As you know, I love dress watches, but I just don't wear them that often, So to me, I have to give it to AP because AP's probably my favorite brand, if I'm just being honest. Yeah. So it's hard to vote against them. But man, this was definitely the highest because it's got my top two. I ultimately wanted, a dress watch from one and a sports watch from the other. But I think you can't go wrong here. But I think AP's got it for me.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that. But I will say that for movement decoration, for the stuff that I'm really into, being kind of a movements nerd, freehand engraving on the balance cock, stuff like that, stuff you don't necessarily get from AP. I think that's what sets Lange apart from me. I feel like and maybe I'm out of turn here, but I feel like across the catalog from Lange, you've got more hand finishing, you've got more man hours into movement decoration, and you know, if I'm going to spend all the money on the watch, I want to be able to turn it around and appreciate what I'm looking at and go, that was done by hand, or that was done by an absolute master, as opposed to, it was done by a really, really good machine.
No, and I also think that this speaks to us as how we wear watches. You wear dress watches way, way more than I do.
Sure.
You wear sports watches more than I wear dress watches. I'll give you that, right?
Yeah.
But if you only had one to pick the rest of your life to wear, it's going to fall on dress watch, and it wouldn't for me. So I think that just shows our different personalities, and it's also our lifestyles, our different. What do you wear every day? Zach wears a suit constantly. I don't. So it speaks to that. But everything you said is right. I mean, their engraving and their just watchmaking, like I said, them and FB Zorn to me is just the top.
And a side note here, so I got to meet Rich from the Berdine Jewelry channel, and I won't get into exactly what the details of what he had engraved, but he has 3 Langes in his collection, and he specifically got to specify what was engraved on the balance cock. And, to have that level of customization, and it was something that's very meaningful to him, and is something that I don't think he's ever going to part with those 3 watches, because it is so personalized. But I love that idea, and I don't, maybe I'm wrong, never sold AP, never sold Lange either, but I don't feel like you get that level of customization with AP, unless maybe you're a guy that spends 7 figures a year, you know?
I think those are pretty, lofty watches there. And this one, we're going to stay in the stars. We're going A, Omega, or B, Tudor.
I like what you did there. Stay in the stars. Yeah, it's okay to be wrong, Rob. It's okay to be wrong.
He's stealing my lines. Once again, no one's going to bash one or the other. And actually, we had this conversation the other day for real. We were just sitting around. Well, we're obviously talking about watches, but it came up. I grabbed my watch because I'm actually wearing an Omega, and I just picked Tudor, which is kind of funny.
Yep.
But I truly think that Tudor could be a brand that if I had to pick one brand to wear the rest of my life, Tudor is in the very, very tip top of that. Realistically, watches I can afford or feel okay purchasing. And you could argue they don't have nearly the vast amount of watches that Omega has. That's a no-brainer. But I will say that the watches they do have, I really like. Like, they speak to me and my personality and my lifestyle. And my son and I were at Reed's last night or the night before, and we went there to look at a Tudor watch. Basically, this watch in a white and black dial is what he wanted to look at, and so we did. And as I'm looking at the case, I said, "Will, pick any watch here. What would you pick?" And he had a really hard time. And it wasn't that he had a hard time finding a watch he liked. It was wanting too many of them, liking too many of them. So for myself, if I could only wear Tudors the rest of my life, I think I would be fine. And I think that also speaks to me not being so much the dressy side, right? Sure. I'm perfectly fine. This chronograph versus this chronograph, to me, it's like, I got a chronograph. Like, I'm cool. The bracelets are very similar, Tamada, but I really like their military stuff. Their just more outdoor type stuff. That's where I fall.
Okay. You're still wrong, but I get it. Look, you've got such a vast catalog with Omega. So you've got the dressy watch. You've got the militaristic watch. You have the watch that went to the frickin' moon, man. In fact, it's on your wrist.
But did it go to the moon? I mean,
It went. I dare you to go to Huntsville, Alabama, and
I don't want to go to Alabama. I'll take your word. You win.
No, you just have such a vast catalog. So
for sure.
I can get my DeVille Tresor with my manual wine, fairly thin, dressy watch kind of style. And then I can go and, you know what, if I want to wear a an ultra deep. That'll never happen. But if I want to wear an ultra deep, I can. I can get something that is just as thick as your deep sea and rated for deeper depth. Just throw them out
One has
there.
a crown. Don't forget that. So, and I know you want to be James Bond, so let's go and get that out of the way. They have the James Bond watch. I know you want to be James Bond and go to the moon. We understand. Is that basically
I
wrap
think
it
he did
up?
go to the moon, didn't he?
That may have happened. I think he almost went. That might have been what it was. I don't know. That was a movie from the 70s or the 80s, but.
Okay, so we're gonna get back on track on that one. So let's.
All right, well let's move on, man. These might be a little more controversial.
Here we go.
Would you rather have A, Breitling, or B, TAG? All right.
Hey.
You guys
Oh, we
agree?
agreed.
Yeah. B. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, like Zach with Hamilton, when I hit a milestone in my career, in my professional career, and I went to buy my first, real watch, we'll call it, it was a TAG. And they, it's just that first thing that my mind will always go back to. So through their ups and downs and in or outs or likes or dislikes or whatever, I've always had a special place in my heart for them. Ironically, Breitling was my second. So that's why it is kind of tricky for me. And Breitling is a watch that I bought when I got back into watches, a year and a half ago or so. But for me, there's still that first one, and it's TAG. So no matter what, I'll always be a fan of TAG because it was really cool for me when after I hit that milestone, through my dips or whatever, to kind of look down at that watch and remind myself of, no, you got this, man, just keep going. So to me, it kind of represented way, way more than just a timepiece. It represented a goal when it comes to business that I was like, no. You're going to build from here and go up. You're not going to go backwards. And that's what happened successfully. And so I wore that watch for years and years, and it'll get passed on to my oldest son one day. But to me, that's probably the big. So it's really not anything to do with watches. It's really just the personal side. But I think that's what makes it great. So
For me, I would say that, they're both brands that to some degree had kind of fallen from grace, right? And they're both on the rebound, and I think they're both making great steps in the right direction. I think the new B31 movement from Breitling is amazing, but TAG kind of got back on track, in my opinion, a little bit before Breitling did. So, looking at the more modern stuff, I think the glass box is phenomenal. We're getting people that are coming in and looking at it, the brand, that are enthusiasts again, as opposed to just, oh, it's a high school graduation, so you have to get a TAG for your child kind of conversation. But then I spend way too much time on Chrono 24, and I'm always digging through, the old stuff, the stuff from, even the 60s, 70s, but then especially the 90s and early 2000s. And I think I have one vintage Breitling in my favorites list on Chrono right now. But I might have 10 either Heuers or TAG Heuers saved. It's just they speak to me more. There's just some really cool stuff that maybe wasn't mainstream that's out there that requires a little bit of a closer look, but they really do some incredible watches if you dig far enough. If you look hard enough, you're going to find them.
Would you rather have A, Longines, or B, Nomos? Oh, all right.
all right, so I picked Longines. Nothing, once again, against Nomos, make an absolute stellar watch. I told Zach earlier tonight that I think probably my favorite, well, I say my second favorite watch in his whole collection is a Nomos. It's just beautiful dial. I like their shade of colors, if that makes any sense, but I pay attention to that, and I really like their shade of colors. I also like their simplicity. As I said earlier, I'm wearing a chronograph, but when it really comes down to it, I just like to know the time and maybe the seconds, okay, and throw in a date every once in a while. But that's just a reality. So, but I'll pick Longines It's back to, like I said about Hamilton. There's something there for everybody, right? I mean, you could be a young kid, whether it be in high school or something like that, as a present, or it could be, the 70-year-old successful lawyer. There's just something in those cases that appeal to every watch lover. I don't think I've ever seen anybody that was into watches that was looking at Longines that's like, yeah, I don't really like any of these. They're blind. I don't know what to tell you. If you're in that price range, if that's the price range that you're looking at, to me, I just think more people can find the watch that they will like in Longines, whether it be dress or sport or flight or whatever. Nothing against Nomos. They're on my short list. I don't own one. I definitely will next year. But what's your thoughts?
So, and there's nothing at all that I disagree with from what you just said about the depth of catalog. And I know that in the Omega Tudor conversation that we had earlier, that was something that I brought up, was depth of catalog. But this is playing to another side of it, which is, when we get down to where we talked about Lange versus AP, thank you. I talked about movement finishing. Well, here there's a pretty stark difference. Nomos, even at their most entry level, like their Alpha Caliber, which you can pick up for sub $2,000 new, you've got hand finishing. You've got the double spiral on the ratchet wheel is a hand-done process by, I don't know if it's changed at this point, but as recently as a year ago, there were 2 women that could have done that. And you could loop it and figure out which of those 2 women had done that. Like, you're getting true hand craftsmanship to some degree with Nomos. And while I think that Longines does have soul and it does have some great watches, at the end of the day, there's something about the idea of a hand finished movement or the quirkiness that you get with Nomos, like the odd color of the Ahoy that I'm wearing today. It's just that little bit off, right? Which is scary to me, honestly, because I'm a guy who, like, a certain color goes with a certain outfit, and I don't like to mix it up. So it took me out of my comfort zone a little bit with Nomos. But at the end of the day, when I pull this watch off of my wrist and I turn it around and I'm showing somebody the movement of it, the look on their face, you can look at and appreciate that there's something just a little bit special on the finish level of a Nomos. And then when you consider the fact that almost everything is sub $5,000 from them, it's awesome. It is. And then on the high end, I can also get my Lambda, which is, $20,000. But you've got true freehand engraving on the balance cock, just like you got on the Lange, but for a whole lot less money.
Absolutely. There's no losers on these, I mean, it's actually, I wasn't realizing that the Nomos I spoke of earlier that I fell in love with, Zach's wearing it now. And it's, as you probably just saw on screen, beautiful watch, beautiful watch. Absolutely. What's next?
So we're going to talk about 2 brands that might be a little lesser known. Okay. So would you rather have A, RGM, or B, Ming? All right.
Well, I have to say I don't know a tremendous about either one. I know a little bit more. I said A, sorry. I know a little bit more, American brand, true watchmaker at the helm with decades of experience. It really, really, really knows the ins and outs and pays attention to those details, makes a beautiful watch or watches, would love to own one, still operating out of Pennsylvania. What part of Pennsylvania?
Lancaster County.
Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, which I'm at all the time. I need to go by and see if I can try to get an interview in there somehow. But amazing watch company. To be honest, this is back to me not being the AD. I just don't know hardly anything at all about Ming, so I just don't really have anything to go off of on that.
Sure. So, RGM is an amazing brand. They do what appears to be, really wonderful stuff. To be completely honest, I've never laid hands on either watch, so haven't felt them in the metal. I can't speak to that, but they do a wonderful job. However, Ming is they're kind of disruptive. They're doing some different stuff. I want to say they came out with the first, it's like a 3D printed titanium NATO strap. Like they're doing some really, really interesting stuff. I believe they're primarily using Le Jeu Perret movements, so it's not, you know, something super base level. You're getting a decent movement in there, and they're just, there's something different. It's one of those brands that when you look at a Ming, once you've you know been introduced to them, you know you're looking at a Ming. It's just got this kind of style to it, and maybe it's romantic, maybe it's not, but for whatever reason, to me, I see it, and I really can't wait to get my hands on one because they're doing some neat stuff. And while I don't know that I've ever had a guy come in and just want to talk about RGM. Every once in a while, you'll get that like hardcore watch guy that wants to come in and have a conversation about Ming.
There you go. There you go. I'm hoping that today we've went over, you know, a watch brand. Hopefully your favorite was in there, and maybe a couple that you didn't know a little bit about, or a lot about, or maybe you didn't know anything about them, like, you know, I was with Ming. But we're hoping that we get the sparks cranking in your head and get some ideas flowing on which watch brand is your next purchase. So if you have 100 watches or you don't have any watches, maybe we said something today to get you thinking one way or another. And I think that personality plays a factor in it. How you dress every day plays a factor. And what you do for a living, what you do for your side hobbies and stuff, all of that plays a factor in what type of watch you're going to settle on. Your budget is obviously going to play a factor on it. But if you have any questions about anything that we mentioned today, definitely hit us up in the comments, and we'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Thank y'all so much for watching. We'll see you soon.